Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to talk about custody battles and visitation rights, specifically in the times of lockdown and COVID-19 pandemic being spread. There are many instances where we see that visitation rights have been given and joint custody or shared custody has been given of the child to both the parents, and because of the lockdown situation happening, the child may be stuck with one parent and the other parent may not be able to visit the child. So here today we will be exploring how the contact rights are to be traced and how contact rights are important and to be exercised in light of a very recent judgment which was delivered by Justice Deepak Gupta, which was called as Yashita Sahu versus State of Rajasthan. The brief facts of the case I shall be delving upon now. So briefly put, the case is all about a couple who gets married in 2016 in India, and the husband is gainfully employed in the United States. The wife joins him after the marriage and a girl child is born out of the wedlock. However, in the meantime, the relationship of the couple starts to get a little strained, and as a result of which the wife had then instituted an emergency protection order in Norfolk Juvenile District Center, and from there she gets an ex parte order which restrains the husband from the custody of the child. She also files an application for maintenance and to be provided utilities and support in the meantime, as well as sole custody of the child. So then the father appeared before the court, and the court then was directing both of the parties to shared physical custody of the child along with a joint legal custody which was given. So alternate weeks they were given, 4 days and 3 days each, to spend with the child and to take care of the child with them. They were also asked to have video calling through WhatsApp calling for at least 5 minutes every day to whichever spouse who did not have this custody of the child, the physical custody of the child on that given day. The times were to be defined from well in advance. Also, the husband was directed to pay for the utilities and to include the mother, the wife, in the lease agreement which was there, to make her also an authorized occupant as far as the lease deed went. So before the next date of hearing, which was scheduled before the Norfolk court in the United States, the mother brought the child back into India, and upon the next date of hearing, when the father was present in the court, he came to know that the child was no longer present in the United States. It is important to mention here that the child being born in the United States was a citizen of USA and the passport holder of United States of America. Although in the previous proceedings which took place before the Norfolk court, it was seen that they were directed to deposit their passports. However, there was a consent agreement which was signed between both the parties, and it seemed that there was some kind of an agreement which had been arrived at between the parties. Coming back to this instance, so the moment the husband got to know that she has left for India, he went ahead and approached the court in the USA again and took an motion and filed for a motion of emergency relief, and got an ex parte order where the sole custody of the child was granted to him. However, he also then instituted a writ petition, a writ of habeas corpus in before the Honorable Rajasthan High Court, and Rajasthan High Court, entertaining the petition, directed the mother to take the child and go back to the United States and to have the matter sorted out over there in the US under the jurisdiction of the Norfolk District Court over there. This order of the Rajasthan High Court was then challenged by the mother before the Honorable Supreme Court, where the Honorable Supreme Court then passed an extensive judgment outlining certain very important features as far as custody and visitation is concerned. So moving forward, the first contention, which was the first argument which was raised, was with respect to whether or not a writ of habeas corpus would lie as far as the child was concerned. And the Honorable Supreme Court held that there have been many cases in the past, be it Nithya Raghavan or many other such cases, where the court has ascertained that a writ of habeas corpus can definitely lie as far as the child is concerned. The mother's argument was that she, being a natural and the legal guardian of the child, the custody was with her, and therefore there was no requirement for a habeas corpus petition to be entertained. So the Honorable Supreme Court, while deciding this first contention about whether or not the writ was maintainable, relied upon variety of the judgments in the past, specifically Elizabeth Dinshaw and also Nithya Anand Raghavan. They came to the conclusion that because the mother was in violation of an order which was passed by the jurisdictional court from the United States, therefore she could not be said to be under the legal guardian of the child, and for the child to be placed under legal custody of her. Also, they went on further to say, however, that since the spouse, that is the mother, was an adult spouse, therefore no high court specifically under writ jurisdiction could direct her to go to United States or anywhere to join the company of her husband, or to go out of the jurisdiction and into a country where she may not want to go. It was completely her freedom as far as her right and her choice was concerned in terms of traveling back to the United States and living over there. The other important area that the Supreme Court delved into was with respect to the comity of court. By that we mean that if an order has been passed by a court which has the similar jurisdiction, then should it be that the order which is of the court of the similar jurisdiction, should it be completely overruled, or should it be entertained and respected in a similar manner? So the Honorable Supreme Court then went into and placed reliance on V. Ravichandran versus Union of India, where it was said that if there is an order which comes from a similar jurisdiction court, it is important that the same is respected. However, it was believed that it is important to look into the kind of manner in which a court of competent jurisdiction is entering into. For example, if there was to be a summarily dismissal of the matter, then in that case the court did not have to go into the merits of the case and was only required to ask for the matter to be heard by the court of competent jurisdiction in a different country, or the country in which, let's say, the matrimonial home was, in this case it being the United States. But if there was to be an elaborate inquiry which was required to be done, then in that manner the court had to delve into the merits of the case and to keep the welfare of the child as of paramount importance, and take steps or issue orders which were more aligned to that of the welfare of the child. So in this manner they said that despite the mode of inquiry, it was important that respect was given to the order of a competent court of the same jurisdiction, and therefore if one of the spouse or the parent has taken out the child and completely ignored and is in contempt of the orders of the court of similar jurisdiction, then it is the duty of the court to ensure that the said violator is sent back to that court of origin, the original court which was there. The court also held that the doctrine of comity was regarded to be a very healthy doctrine, and that if courts in different jurisdictions did not respect the orders passed by courts of different jurisdiction, then there would be no dispersal of justice which could be seen, and it would only entail that there would be a lot of chaos, as a result of which contradictory orders would be passed in different jurisdiction. And therefore there was no hard and fast guideline as far as each case, deciding of each case was concerned. However, it was important that the courts in different jurisdictions around the world would give equal respect to orders which were passed. The Supreme Court gave an order with respect to the concept of visitation right and tried to develop it further. It very clearly said that the concept of visitation right was not so developed as far as India is concerned, because every time a court gives custody of a child to one parent, they somehow end up ignoring the visitation rights which should have come along with it for the second parent who's there. So it is important that contact rights were developed, that because of enhancement of technology and the fact that everybody could do a WhatsApp calling, 3 to 5 minutes of WhatsApp call should be provided to the parent who does not have the physical custody of the child. This would then enable for the child as well as for the parent to develop a bond amongst themselves. And this contact right has been identified as a very crucial part of the visitation rights which are being granted to parents as far as shared joint custody is concerned. There was another contention that the mother had raised with respect to the order which was passed by the jurisdictional court in the United States. She said that she did not understand the American accented English that her lawyer had, and also she did not understand, because he was a Caucasian male, and the things that he was saying, she was not able to comprehend them. However, Supreme Court actually went into the facts of it and said that the lady had been working in Walmart for some time, and if she knew about all her rights and could approach the embassy and could ascertain her rights, file for a matter on her own behest, it did not seem to them that she could not understand heavily American accented English. So that argument was again dismissed by the Honorable Court. The court finally then observed that since the mother had entered into an agreement, and on the basis of that agreement a consent order was passed, it was important that the mother had to respect that order. Therefore, the order was actually, the order by the Honorable Supreme Court was passed in two different parts, wherein in the first part they had passed an order considering that the mother would join her husband back in United States, because the husband said that he had absolutely no intentions of filing a divorce, and that he wanted to live with his wife and daughter. Also, because there was a girl child, it was felt that it was necessary for the mother to have legal custody or shared legal custody of the child, and it was important for her to be part of her future because of the upbringing that she wanted and that she would require. However, interestingly, it was upheld that no writ court, no court which had the writ jurisdiction, could direct an adult spouse to go to America, and this is where they found the Rajasthan High Court order inconsistent. When we look at the custody rights as far as COVID-19 and the lockdown time is concerned, increasingly we see that the petitions which were filed before the Honorable Supreme Court during the lockdown phase, the court has increasingly identified that because there is a lockdown and because children are with one set of spouse, it is important that contact right or electronic visitation is supported instead of a physical visitation as far as the lockdown period is concerned. So therefore 5 to 7 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes of WhatsApp calling could be done so that the child can stay in touch with the other parent who has been deprived of the custody during the lockdown period. I think these are all very positive steps which have been taken, and with the advent of technology, we see that the entire process of visitation and the entire concept of visitation has really changed. Thank you for watching my video. Do like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you have any specific comments, please do mention it in the comment box below. You can also write to me or call me if you have any specific queries. The details are given in the official website www.pratapandcompany.com. Thank you so much. Take care. Good night.